Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to Planning Committee on Thursday, the 22nd of February, 2024. Welcome to today's meeting. I'm just going to do the Chair's introduction. This is a public meeting and members of the public and press are permitted to report on the proceedings. Reporting includes filming, photographing, making an audio recording and providing commentary on proceedings. Please note this meeting is recorded and streamed live. These recordings are published on the relevant meeting page of the Council's website. By choosing to attend this public meeting, you are deemed to have given your consent to being filmed or recorded and for any footage to be broadcast or published. If the alarm sounds, the premises must be evacuated immediately. Do not spend time collecting personal belongings. All emergency escape routes are clearly signed. Once you have left the building, the assembly point is in the High Street opposite the Guildhall. Members and other speakers are please reminded to use their microphone when speaking. Thank you. Councillor Amos.
Thank you. I'll be very brief, just a point of order. As always, can I thank Councillor Agar for the biscuits. But before I take a bite, can you just confirm they don't contain any animal products? Because I don't want to destroy the planet by eating one.
Well, thank you, Councillor Amos. Yes, I don't eat those biscuits. Thank you for that reason. Back to business, please. Appointment of substitutes, Margaret.
There are no substitutes today, Chair. Thank you.
And we have no apologies.
That's correct, Chair.
Yeah, I'd like to welcome Councillor James Stanley today as our new but very experienced member to the committee. Yeah, you've been here a lot. Yeah, so very experienced. That's excellent. Do we have any declarations of interest, please? Right, okay, I'm going to declare mine then, in that case. So I want to say that I went to the Myriad Centre public consultation a while back, actually. And also on item 10, which is the Waterworks Road application, it's my fellow ward councillor's application, and she's also a close personal friend. So Councillor Pat Agar, as the Vice Chair, will take that application, and then I'll come back in the room for item 11. Okay, is that okay? Right. So first of all, we'll do now the minutes of the previous planning committee. This is people who are here on the 18th of January. I'll go through a page at a time. Please raise your hands if you want to make any comment. We have page 1, page 2, page 3, 4, page 5, page 6, and then there's just an email about the site visit. So everyone's happy that they're a true record. Thank you very much. Okay, and then we've got a report to receive from the Conservation Advisory Panel. In the report, it talked about how I was going to be going to a meeting at the Conservation Panel, and I did attend. It was in person here at the Guildhall, and I really enjoyed going. Actually, it was a really lovely insight into the way the advisory panel works as well. So I just wanted to give you an update on that. I will probably go again as well, because it's just good to see how they work and understand how they work. Right, so we're happy to receive those. Yeah. Okay. We had a site visit today for the Myriad Centre project. I'd like to thank everyone who attended despite the terrible weather. I think we found it extremely useful. Margaret, we've got public participation, please.
There's no public participation, Chair.
Okay, do we have public representation?
Yes, we do. Agenda item 8, we have Claire Summers as an objector on behalf of residents in the vicinity. We have Jonathan Davey from Associated Architects, Richard Waitley, who's representing the Myriad Centre, and Councillor Bissett will be speaking as local ward member. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. So, can we start then with the resident, Claire Summers? Would you like to come forward? And then you'll be speaking after the presentation finishes. Yeah, no, if you come and sit. Yeah, and then as soon as the presentation finishes, then you'll have your 5 minutes after that. Lovely. Yeah. Okay, Paul. Yeah, it's fine. Yeah.
Well, thank you, Chair. Right, we're fully in action. Good afternoon, members. So this application relates to the Myriad Centre on St George's Walk. The centre is located within the Barbourne area of Worcester, and it sits in between St George's Walk and Henry Street. The area is predominantly residential, and the property sits just south of Barbourne Brook, which members went and had a look at earlier today. Just some photos of the site. So this is an aerial photo looking from towards Henry Street and the rear of the centre. An aerial photo looking on St George's Walk, and you can see the centre and you can see the minibuses in position as they are existing, and you can see the rear of properties on Henry Street. Photos aren't quite as large as I thought they would be, but you can see the areas from Henry Street, from St George's Walk, and the surrounding area of the buildings. Just a few photos that were provided by the applicant in terms of the internal space, and members had an opportunity to look inside the building at the internal space this afternoon. So whilst the building has some age, and you can see from this 1923 aerial photo, the building, and I think it looks pretty new at that stage, but we've got a 1923 photo. It has some age, but it's not a heritage asset and it's not in a conservation area. The Myriad Centre itself is a charitable care for people with profound mental and learning difficulties. They currently support 16 young adults who are among the most disadvantaged and disabled within the local community. The proposal is for the redevelopment of the site to provide a replacement building, creating a new purpose-built facility for the Myriad Centre, and the proposals demonstrate that there will be a 163 square metre increase in the gross internal area. The application has been called in by the local ward member, and 11 comments have been received from neighbouring properties, which are summarised at paragraph 6.3. The principle of development is acceptable in policy terms, allowing for the charity to provide care in a suitably purpose-built environment and alleviate some of the concerns with the existing building. The building is sustainably located with good transport links and will result in additional employment opportunities. The proposed building would consist of a 2-storey and a single-storey element, allowing the design to respect the scale of surrounding buildings and reduce the perception of massing. The first floor areas contain a greater proportion of glazing to lighten the visual appearance and provide the maximum amount of daylight to internal rooms. The entrance to St George's Walk, it will be new, and it creates some legibility and a sense of arrival, making it safe and convenient for all users. There are additional design details, including brick detailing, that lift the overall design quality of the proposal. And so you have there, you can see the brick detailing, and that's the rear elevation towards Henry Street. And then just looking at that in perspective and some of the details, materials that will be used. Overall, the visual appearance as a whole, when taken in its own right and within the context of the surrounding area, is considered to be a suitable replacement building of a design that is an improvement to the existing property. In respect of layout, the proposal would rationalise and utilise the existing voids, providing an effective and efficient use of land. That's the existing ground floor layout, and that's the proposed ground floor layout. The external space, sorry, that I should have said, that's the first floor layout as existing, and the first floor layout as proposed. In respect to the external space, it will be relocated from the west, where it is currently adjacent to Henry Street, where the area is constrained and receives inadequate sunlight and does not have adequate surveillance, to the east, where the size of the usable space is comparable with the existing, and it will be less overshadowed and allow for greater surveillance. Any minor reduction in the usable space is compensated through the increased quality of the area that will be provided. The proposals have been fully considered in respect to the amenity of local residents, with separation distances between properties that face the front and the rear of the property as being acceptable. There are no adverse impact to light or neighbouring properties, and it's not considered that any additional level of activity associated with the enlarged facility will result in any noise or disturbance. In respect of highway access and parking, members will note concerns have been raised in respect of the proposed parking arrangements, as the two existing off-street parking spaces for one car and one minibus, as highlighted on the plan, will be removed. It is appreciated that the numbers of clients and staff will increase. However, as set out in detail within the report, the applicants have provided additional information and detail in respect of the working arrangements of the centre, along with staff travel information and proposed sustainable transport measures that will be put in place. The existing lay-by will be realigned. 10 accessible, covered, secure cycle spaces will be provided as part of the proposal. And this additional plan has been shown to demonstrate the accessibility of the cycle spaces over and above what was on the original plan. The Highway Authority are satisfied that the proposal will not result in displacement or increase in parking demand that would cause a severe highway impact within the locality. And I've lost a slide, so just bear with me. No, I've lost the slide. I'll talk about it instead. So, in terms of sustainability, I've got a slide which showed the roof lights and also the sustainable measures that were put in place. But in terms of the sustainable building, they're looking to reduce the reliance on non-sustainable resources and energy requirements. The approach to the design results in a CO2 reduction that is 23% above the requirements that are required under building regulations. And with additional proposed PV panels that will provide 66% of the total energy requirements for the building. These requirements are over and above the policy requirements, and it demonstrates a positive effect of achieving a new building will have on the charity. The site is at risk of flooding, along with all properties within the locality. Detailed assessment is provided within the report, which captures the comments provided by the Environment Agency. It is accepted that the redevelopment of the site can be made safe from flooding throughout the lifetime of the development. However, local and national planning policy requires that new developments are located in areas that are not at risk of flooding, even though the buildings exist on site. There is a requirement to go through a sequential test, exploring suitable alternative arrangements or available sites, and then an exception test to demonstrate the circumstances as why this proposal should be in this location. A number of alternative locations have been considered over against the set criteria for a successful operation of the centre. These are set out in detail within the report, concluding that the application site is the most suitable and that there are no alternative available sites. The exception test is also set out in detail, highlighting that the new build will provide a betterment in flood resilience and will provide an enhanced sustainable urban drainage to reduce the effect of surface water flooding on the surrounding area. On this basis, the development of this site is acceptable in flood risk terms. There are a number of material circumstances that need to be weighed up as part of the planning balance of this planning application. There are elements that are not perfect, but have been found to be acceptable or have been fully addressed by the applicant, bringing them in line with the policy requirements. There are other elements that exceed the policy requirements, including a substantial betterment over the existing situation. It is considered that the social and economic benefits cannot be underestimated, particularly that of the social aspects. And in particular, the benefits of a well-designed, purpose-built facility for the use of the users of the facility, again, cannot be underestimated. Taking all matters into consideration and conducting the planning balance, the recommendation before members is for an approval subject to the conditions as listed within the report. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you, Paul. We'll now go to the public representation, Claire Summers. You'll have 5 minutes, and when it gets to about 4:30, I'll kind of wave like this or alert you. Okay, when you're ready.
So, parking. With St George's CFE Primary School being very close to Myriad Centre, it creates a massive issue regarding parking / traffic on Henry Street and St George's Lane and Walk, which is the back of the houses of Henry Street. It stops residents being able to park near their homes, with residential parking already being close by, for example, St George's Lane Square, Shrubbery Road and Shrubbery Avenue and Fladmeadow Walk. They are all residential parking, which makes it very difficult to find parking in the area. Plus, being close to the town centre, we have witnessed people using our street locally regarding parking to get into the town centre, and staff at St George's also use Henry Street to park on. So parking is difficult on Henry Street as it is. The hazard for the pedestrians and the young children in St George's and Bishop Prone High School on the school run, I have seen many children nearly hit by cars. These can be like, you know, people just picking up their children from the school, the traffic at the Myriad Centre in the buses, and people just using St George's Walk, Fladmeadow. It can get really overcramped around the school run, the first thing in the morning, and obviously in that afternoon period. The disabled bays on St George's Walk are not just for the centre. This can be for any blue badge holder, but the Myriad seem to think this is only dedicated for them, which it is not. Regarding making the Myriad Centre a bigger place and a better place, I think it's fantastic. It's an amazing idea. But this creates just more of a problem regarding the parking because there'll be more staff. Also, the Cavalier Pub and the Worcester City Football Ground, Gregory Hills Bank and Industrial Estate and the training colleges opposite Sunnyside Road have all been redeveloped into residential homes, which proves that this area in the WR1 area is more of a residential area, and it has 3 surrounding schools, which is St George's CFE, obviously Bishop Prone, the Royal Grammar School and St George's Roman Catholic. This is an old Victoria building that was St George's Church Hall initially and was built in the 1890s, around the time that Henry Street was built. So this is a real big historic building. Why flatten it? Why get rid of it? If the future is, in 10 to 20 years' time, to bring in electric cars, how are residential people able to actually park their car outside their own terrace house? This, I find, is a real biggie for me, because environmentally we are meant to be moving forward and obviously having electric cars. If we can't park our car outside our house and charge it, you know, that's what it's going to be in 10, 20 years' time. And also, the centre at the moment does have 2 parking bays, and when the proposal, if it was to go through, there'll be none. So, yeah, that's all I have to say.
Councillor Ramos.
Thank you, Chair. Ms Summers, I think you've picked up a very important point about parking. How would you grade the problem that is likely to develop? Would you say it was severe, marginal, minor? And how, of the people you see with a parking problem? Are many of them, for example, single women having to walk a long way from their home in the dark, for example, mums or dads with children? In other words, I'm trying to gauge the extent of the parking problem.
Elderly people also who struggle to walk. So, I mean, there's one lady on our street who literally cannot park outside her house most days, and she needs to get into her home. So that, I've seen that and witnessed that, and she's actually the longest resident on the street. There's people with children as well, where they've had to leave their children in the car and just leave it in the middle of the street to drop their shopping or whatever they've done, and then go and get their children out the car, or the other way, leave the children in the house on their own because they can't park outside their house. So I think that's a massive issue. I think you should be able to park on your street. If you can't park on your street, where else is there to park when there's residential parking all around that area? Where do you go? I mean, I don't really want to be walking 1-2 miles to get back to my house. Shopping, children or elderly.
Okay, I've got Councillor Udall and then Councillor Round.
Thank you. Just two brief questions. First of all, most of your comments have been regarding parking and on-street issues. Do you have any views or concern about the actual design of the building, whether it's too big in a residential area,
I think
or is that less of a concern?
No,
or?
I think it's going to be overcrowded because it's just literally taking up the whole of that space. There's no view or any real big garden, I think, for the clients to be able to enjoy the fresh air. Not that there's much fresh air because it is in the city centre, and that area is known for traffic with the Barban Road, St George's Lane, St George's Walk. People do use that as a through road, and I just don't think, you know, it's a very healthy place to be.
So you do have concerns about it being too big for the site?
Oh, definitely.
Okay. My other question is about parking. You indicated that the majority of the problems were at school time. Is that the case? And as outside school time, is the problems minimised?
In the evenings, no, it is a big case. I mean, I worry every day when I come home from work, will I find parking on my street? And I shouldn't have that worry.
Okay, thank you.
And that's all the other residents as well, not just, but I'm speaking for myself as well.
Thank you. I've got Councillor Round, then Councillor Alcott, please.
Thank you, Chair. Just a quick question in terms of, we just talked about the parking and you explained it's sort of busy all the time. Is it the same parking issues on a Saturday and a Sunday?
Saturday and Sundays aren't too bad, but they're generally, I mean, most people are in at the weekend, so, you know, there's no school run and there's no Myriad Centre, and yeah, so it is a little bit easier at weekends, but it is already over parked, if that's the word.
Councillor Alcott.
Chair, thank you. Sorry.
I thought you were speaking, sorry.
Yeah, just thinking about, obviously, when the residents' parking scheme was put in Arboretum, which I think has been a success for the residents there, did you notice a big knock-on effect at that point?
Well, we do, you know, the resident parking, there are people on our street, I think, don't want to pay for the residential parking and actually use our street for parking as well, because I do notice there's cars in the evenings, and I think they don't live on Henry Street, and I have noticed that. I think if there was residential parking brought in on Henry Street, St George's Walk, I think that would be a lot easier for us, which we have actually been talking about with many parties that have knocked on our door about having residential parking on Henry Street and round St George's Walk, so that we're able to park within our homes.
I think that would be a solution for your street. But
Yeah.
I do know I'm a county councillor and they've pulled the plug on residents' parking schemes at the moment.
Yeah.
They're not looking at any,
Due to funding or something.
possibly, apart from the cost of enforcement. But obviously there will be a change of administration in 2025, so bear that in mind. Thank you. Oh, sorry.
Sorry.
Okay. Yeah, sorry, it was more just last few sentences, just a comment. Well, it was about the residential parking scheme, whether it's had a knock-on effect. And as our speaker said, it has, and it appears that some people maybe who live in that area are parking in their area. And I just wanted to comment that as a county council, I know the county have pulled the plug on resident parking schemes at the moment. due to enforcement costs and other issues. But just to bear in mind that obviously it will change administration in 25, and so it may change again. Thank you.
Yeah, I think it's important to remind everyone that what we are considering today is what we have before us, and not speculating on a residential parking scheme that may come in the future, because we don't know whether it will or not. I'm just wondering, I have a question as well. I'm wondering whether you've read the traffic travel plan that's been done for the application, because in it talks about how the back of the building there'll be an emergency exit only, and they will encourage staff not to park on the road. Does that give you any comfort?
No, because they will park on our road. They will.
Okay, thank you. Are there any other questions, please? Councillor Sarah?
Thank you. So I was on the site visit today, and you can say whether this is, you know, a mitigation or not, but there was a lot of space on your streets, on Henry Street today, because it's the middle of the day, I expect, and people are away. So if staff did park there, they'd be there when you were not, surely.
It is empty today, and coincidentally, I thought they're going to see it empty today. It's not always like that. It has been raining a lot today, and a lot of people would have not walked to work, so they would have driven to work, or they could be working from home or not working from home, depending on the circumstances of their lifestyle and with their jobs or whatever they're doing.
Can I just go back? So it's really the idea of, would it be a swapping of, you know, anybody who's working there in the day
Yeah,
would be taking potentially a space of somebody who's gone away to work with their car. Do you know what I mean?
yeah, I know, swapping parking spaces, yeah. And I could see I could see what you're saying.
Thank you. Councillor Cleary?
Thanks, Chair. At the moment, are you aware of any of the staff cycling to work at the moment? And if this goes ahead and there's 10 cycle spaces, do you think any of the staff will cycle to work in the future?
I've never witnessed anybody cycling to work there. I've only actually seen more of the teachers at St George's actually cycling to work, but nobody from the Myriad. There are a few that do walk, though. I have witnessed that.
In your experience, knowing that site, do you think the addition of the cycle spaces will encourage the staff to work, or do you think that's perhaps a waste of time?
I honestly can't answer that.
Councillor Udall?
Again, if I may, two questions. First of all, the question I have about the construction, which is one of the conditions suggested. It says no construction to take place before 0800 in the morning and 1800 in the evening. That obviously includes peak school time. Would you, if this was to proceed, have any concerns about those hours of operation, and would you want them to be shorter than that to prevent any construction or activity during school periods?
Oh, you mean like finish or start a little bit later?
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, either make their hours a little bit longer or shorter. That would be so much better regarding the traffic and also the school run, because a lot of children in that time are walking to and from school, and people are rushing around, and yeah, I think that would be a very good idea.
So at the moment it's suggesting work can start in construction at 0800 hours. So you would prefer that to be later, 0900 hours rather than...
Yeah.
Okay. My second question is, I'm not sure what the current operational hours of the building are. Do they have evening activities in the centre?
No.
Okay. Would it give you more comfort if that was actually prohibited within planning conditions?
What, having evening?
No evening activities?
Oh gosh, no evening activities. Really, you can struggle to get parking in the evening as it is without creating even more of a issue.
But if that was restricted, that would give you some comfort to know that it would never happen?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Chair.
Yeah, Councillor Udall, in the recommendation, there is something that says traffic management measures for construction vehicles will be on St George's Walk. So I don't. Yeah, so I think the idea is that they will not come down Henry Street. Is that correct? Thank you.
Sorry, Chair, but there would be construction traffic in the general area before 0900 in the morning, even if it's in St George's Walk.
Yeah, for timing.
Which is obviously a busier road than Henry Street.
I think there are hours in the condition. Yeah, please.
Through you, Chair, Condition 11 sets out, as I think Councillor Udall has intimated, the hours. And again, it's a matter for members to consider if they feel that those hours need to be changed, bearing in mind the discussion, the circumstances that they've considered as part of the overall debate. If should we get to that point, those can be changed. And we had a discussion last month about similar type of thing, and we agreed a set of conditions with Chair outside the committee, which dealt with making sure that there was no activity during school drop-off and pick-up. So that can be done, and that would be a suitable condition if members wish to amend it.
Okay, do I have any further questions? No. Okay, you're free to step back, please. And thank you for coming along. We've now got the agent and the applicant, have we? Representing the Myriad Centre. So we've got Mr. Davey and Mr. Watley. Could you come forward, please? Thank you. Would you like to say who's who, if that's all right?
Thank you, Chair. Jonathan Davey, Associated Architects, and this is my client, Richard Waitley, from the Myriad Centre.
Lovely, thank you. So you have 5 minutes between you, and I'll just start the clock as soon as you start speaking. Thank you.
Thank you. Associated Architects has worked closely with the Myriad Centre to design a new purpose-built facility that is specifically tailored to meet the specialist needs of the Myriad Centre's staff and clients. This development will enable the charity to continue its essential work in an effective and sustainable manner, as well as increase its capacity of care. The new building will provide a warm and welcoming family environment, avoiding an institutional atmosphere. It will include flexible client rooms with specialist care equipment and direct access to a garden area for outdoor activities such as gardening and socialising. Unlike the existing building, it will also allow full wheelchair access. Through the planning process, we have worked with Worcester City Council planning officers to demonstrate that the development will contribute positively to the local neighbourhood, and we have evidence that any impacts on surrounding properties have either been designed out or at least mitigated. The design is sensitive to and complements the predominantly residential context, and we have liaised closely with Highways over a long period of time to ensure that the development proposals will not cause significant impacts on the local highway network or parking, and that's all evidenced in detail in the office's report. Sustainability has been central to the brief from the Myriad Centre, both in its commitment to reducing its environmental impact and its operational costs. The design adopts passive design principles, including high levels of thermal insulation and air tightness, high performance glazing, and highly efficient systems and renewables. Now I'll hand over to my client, Richard Waitley, the Chief Executive Officer of the Myriad Centre, who will explain why this redevelopment project is so essential.
Thank you. The Myriad Centre has delivered care and support to people with profound and multiple learning disabilities, PMLD, from its home on St George's Walk since 2007. There is evidence and growing need for our service. Due to advances in medical care, it is predicted that there will be sustained and accelerated growth in the number of adults with PMLD in England, with an average annual increase of 1.8% forecast. In Worcestershire alone, it is estimated that there are some 10,900 adults with learning disabilities. More specifically, in Worcestershire, it is anticipated that up to 50 young people will transition into adult services over the next 3 to 5 years. New referrals suggest that a growing complexity in the needs of young adults with PMLD, not only in their physical health conditions, not only are they more complex, but there is also a need to care for those with accompanying challenging behaviours. Daytime respite care for people with PMLD is vital for the individual and for the families and carers. It allows them to have a break, to work, or to do the shopping. The property on St George's Walk is an adaptation, not a purpose-designed facility. We made it work for 17 years, but the compromises we made over time put a strain on clients, staff, and the building. our building has not been fit for purpose for some time. We want to continue to deliver our service from St George's Walk because we want to remain community-based, close to the city centre and to the amenities such as Gillivelt Park, a favourite with Myriad clients. The location has always benefited our clients. It's always benefited them being part of the community, and it has served Myriad well, but the building no longer can. Specifically designed new premises on St George's Walk will provide Myriad with better apportioned and flexible space to deliver a more bespoke and caring service to clients. People with PMLD have been marginalised by our society. Staying at St George's Walk in a new home would allow us to support more of this growing cohort of people in a more efficient and more appropriate way, in a familiar location as part of the community. Supporting this application today will bring joy to a growing and important group of people who depend on society and us for all of their needs. Thank you.
Great. Thank you very much. Does anyone have any questions, please? Oh, great. Okay, wait a moment then. Put your hands up then, please. Right. Is that basically everyone except Councillor Reynolds? No? So, wait a minute. There we go. Cross. Cleary. Stanley. Alcott. Udall. And Azera. Right. What's going on now? Okay, so Councillor Cross, Councillor Cleary, Councillor Stanley, and then we're just going to go round, actually, if that's all right. So we'll start with you, Councillor Cross.
Thank you, Chair. I'd like to thank everyone for the opportunity for the site visit today, which I found very informative. And so thank you for the presentation today. And just remind me, please, where you're currently operating from since October.
Our home is at Green Hill Lodge and St Merriman's Walk.
Green Hill Lodge, St Merriman's Walk. Yeah. Okay. Thank you. And could I also just have clarity on the projected client needs, or projected numbers of clients to rise from 16 to 20 on a typical day. Your minibuses currently 3 times 6, so 18 seats, to be replaced by 2 times 8, which is 16. So a reduction in minibus seat numbers, but that gets complicated by numbers of wheelchairs and wheelchair carrying capacity. So I'm slightly unsure how the minibus provision or that. Well, I guess my question is: are you satisfied that your minibus requirements, as stated, are not likely to increase based upon the proposed planning application?
No, they're not going to increase at all. We have 2 larger minibuses coming, as you alluded to, and there is greater flexibility. Some of our clients can walk, most of them can't. So we need our new minibuses to be flexible in the spaces for the wheelchairs and those that are ambulant. So there is a flexibility that the new vehicles will provide.
Thank you. So within the projected vehicles, the minibus, you have sufficient scope for the extra demand you're likely to have?
Indeed. Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Cleary?
Thanks, Chair. Just 2 questions. First of all, the residents said that she's not aware of any of your staff cycling to work at the moment. With the addition of these cycling spaces, do you expect your staff to cycle to work, or will you encourage them to, or force them to? Second question, where are your minibuses going to park?
First question, there are actually 2 members of staff who do cycle to work currently. We will encourage, we won't force, but we will encourage. And the second question, sorry?
Where are your minibuses going to park?
Our minibuses will be reducing from 3 to 2. Our designated space, that I appreciate was never just for Myriad. It is a designated disability parking space. It will easily fit 2 vehicles and perhaps a single vehicle which our clients' families use to bring them to and from the centre occasionally. So there is ample parking.
That's not really an answer. I want you to tell me, are they going to park on the street or are they not going to park on the street, please?
They're going to park on the street.
Yeah, Councillor Cleary, there's no parking on the site in the proposal. It will be on the road. Can I just clarify on that? When the minibuses come, do they stay in those spaces all day or do they go somewhere else?
Unless we have an activity to go to, they stay parked there,
Okay, thank you.
outside the building.
Thank you. Councillor Stanley.
Chair, thanks very much. You may not be surprised, another parking question. But we've heard during the course of the conversation so far that you anticipate an increase in demand. You don't, however, anticipate a demand in parking capacity or the need for parking capacity. However, one of the suggestions that seems to have emerged in the conversation thus far is that much of this can be mitigated out through a sort of creative use of a sort of work scheduling system. My concern, if you like, is how robust and resilient that will be, because it clearly is an evolving narrative, and there is, I mean, you're experienced in your field, and you will have a grip on the expected demand levels going forward. But how that can be then, you know, channeled into that particular question about, you know, because clearly if this is going to work in a practical sense, that work scheduling question needs to be quite robust, doesn't it? Quite resilient.
So to answer the first part, we've been working really closely with commissioners, with the social care team, and with families, and certainly over even the last 5 years, we are encouraging a greater number of parents to use their own transport, which most of them have, to bring clients to and from. So that would just be a process of dropping off, which is about 10 minutes. And we use the bays outside the building to do that. So we've been encouraging that for 5 years. We will do that considerably so in the future, and we'll increase our efforts in that way. What that means is, as we grow the numbers from 16 to 20, what's important to remember is that won't happen overnight. The increase from 16 to 20 might take as long as 18 months for us to do that. It's a long process of referrals that our clients have to go through. But what we're doing by encouraging parents to use their own transport where they can is, as we grow the service, we don't necessarily need to bring everybody in our buses. So that's something we've been working over the last 5 years to achieve, and we'll continue to do so.
Thank you. I've got Councillor Olcott and then you, Dor, please.
Chair, thank you. I'm going to face this way so I don't make the error of last time. Just a quick question, really. Obviously, looking at the planning documents, you've done an extensive search around other buildings and you've sort of searched far and wide, but you haven't been able to find another suitable site. So I guess if for any reason the application didn't go forward today, you would be quite stuck, or you would need to look further out of county. Is that fair?
Yeah, the search was really extensive, and we used our contacts at the county and in the city council and various other agencies as well. So we didn't just do it on our own. We went to see David Blake on it. Yes, I'm sorry. We went to see David Blake on a number of occasions and asked his advice. And it was an extensive search done across a lot of multi-agencies. And they couldn't come up with anything at the time. So we found our temporary home at Greenhill Lodge, which bizarrely nobody told us about when we were doing the search.
Sorry, you need to speak to your mic, otherwise it's not picked up.
They are portable.
Oh, right. All the questions seem to be fired at me, so I will move it over here. Yes, so what was the sort of second part of your question?
So yeah, just that obviously if it's, say, obviously we don't know the outcome, but if it was refused today, what would be your next option? Where would you go?
We would have to talk very closely with the commissioners and with our landlords at Greenhill Lodge and to see what those options are. So this is a preferred option.
Thank you. Because you are at Greenhill Lodge, can you clarify what the arrangement is there at the moment, please?
We are renting half of the property at Greenhill Lodge from the county.
And do you have an agreed term?
Yes, it's 18 months from the 1st of October with a proviso for another 6 months afterwards.
Councillor Udall?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I've got a couple of questions, a few questions. First of all, I've searched for it in the report and I can't find it. Can you tell me what the operating hours will be when clients will be?
Our operating hours, our clients arrive around 9:30 in the morning, and they start to depart at 3:30 in the afternoon.
And when is the building fully closed for operational activity?
Well, most people, the clients obviously are the bulk of the people that are in there, and most of the staff go with them at 3:30. So by 4, there might be one person left in the building or 2.
I'm not sure this is a question for you or for your architect. When I look at the diagram of the design on page 9 of the report, I see a lot of glass in the building. Now, from my recollection and experience of going into such buildings with such a lot of glass, it becomes incredibly hot in the summer months. Can you give me a bit of information about what ventilation you have planned to make sure that it will not overheat?
Yes, the ventilation system for the building has been designed. It's largely naturally ventilated. It's all been modelled thermally using the latest software, and the building does perform very well. I think it was mentioned in the office's report, 23% higher or better standard than the building regulations. So all that has been considered. It's all been built into the building, and the glazing area, although it's large on that one elevation that you can see at the front, the proportion of glazing across the overall envelope of the building is not higher than one would expect for a building of this type.
Are the windows which I can see, the glazing I can see, would any of those windows be able to be opened?
There are openable windows, yes.
And is that part of the process for ventilation?
Yes.
Okay. Would there be any concern amongst residents about open windows and noise pollution being caused from the premises?
I don't believe that was raised during the consultation period as a major concern.
Well, it may not be, but I'm raising it as a concern. Do you think it could be a concern? Is there likelihood of being a noise problem within the premises which could leak out and cause a problem to neighbours as a result of open windows in very hot summer weather?
I would say that was highly unlikely.
Why's that?
There's just not an awful lot of noise that's emitted from our premises, from our clients.
Final question, and this is said out of complete total ignorance, because you may have a very good answer for this. The mention of the electric vehicle charging. I'm assuming this is to be done on the highway.
It would be, yes.
You are aware that no electric vehicle charging is permissible on the highway?
I'm not aware of that, no.
And there's no electric charging machines which are allowed on the public highway by Worcestershire County Council?
No, I wasn't aware of that.
So consequently, this is something which you've included and suggested which couldn't actually happen. Is that? Would you accept that as a potential problem?
I guess you've raised a technical issue that could be correct, yes.
Okay, thank you, Chair.
Karen, can you comment on that, please?
Thank you, Chair. Yes, it's our understanding that the electrical vehicle charging point has been removed from the proposals because we have indicated that we will not accept any cables on the highway. So that is, we detail that in our consultation response. The applicant will need to have an alternative strategy for charging the new 8-passenger minibuses if they are proposed to be electric vehicles, as there is currently no provision for charging in the highway in this location, and cables on, under or over the highway are not permitted. So we have made that clear in our consultation response from August last year. And as I said, the drawings that we saw showed that had been removed. So it is our understanding, and our consultation response is based on that understanding.
Councillor Udall?
On that basis, would you have concerns about us pursuing this application if you can't have on-highway vehicle charging? Does that damage your business plan and proposals for the site?
It doesn't at the moment, because our 2 new minibuses that we are purchasing in the summer are not electric vehicles.
Potentially in the future it might.
Potentially it might. But it's the likelihood of that, a charity such as ours doesn't tend to renew its vehicles quite so frequently. So,
Thank you, Chair.
Yeah, Karen?
Sorry, I don't know if it's helpful. Thank you, Chair. I would note that as part of our local transport plan 5, the County Council is going to prepare an electric vehicle charging strategy. So it could be that there is a strategy in place by the time you've just said the new minibuses that you're purchasing are not electric. So it could be that things have changed by the time you do repurchase.
Thank you, Karen. Yeah, based on what Councillor Udall was saying, and you responded that you were going to have a natural ventilation. There are some internal rooms in the building. How will they be ventilated, please?
Yes, there's a mechanical ventilation system for rooms. Some rooms need to be mechanically ventilated anyway, such as toilet accommodation. You can't naturally ventilate those.
Got Councillor Desera and then Councillor Agar, please.
Thank you, Chair. Am I allowed to ask a question about the general need for provision for this sort of facility? Is that a relevant question? Yeah. So you anticipate a growing demand for your services, I think you said. Do you have any figures that you're aware of for how many people right now within the county are not able to get places for respite in a facility like yours because there isn't capacity?
we do anticipate an increase, you're right. It's incredibly difficult. There's no great public figures on this. We understand from our commission, in fact, we spoke to commissioners recently at county, adult service providers, commissioners, and they indicated that they want to conduct a survey to actually get to the bottom of how many people are coming through. It's anticipated, as I said in my speech, that there are likely to be 50 or so people coming through in the next 3 to 5 years, and that's the best information we have. We know it's a growing population. It's difficult to get to the bottom of these figures because COVID changed things a little bit, not dramatically, but a little bit. Before COVID, there were very few people that wanted to keep their grown children, their adult children with PMLD at home. There's been an indication that that's increased slightly, not dramatically, but slightly. So there are some people that when their adult children leave special educational needs, an environment of special educational needs, that they disappear. And by disappear, they go home and they don't access any of the adult social care provisions. So there needs to be a huge piece of work done, and it needs to be not only by us, a small charity, but by a group of charities and by a governing body for PMLD, which doesn't really exist, not a national body yet. And we need to work with all the commissioners across all the counties to achieve that. So we have an indication, but it's purely an indication. What we
Thank you. So you don't have a waiting list, for example?
We do, in a sense, because what happens is we're aware of referrals, but the referral process is slow, and it's slow for a number of reasons. The prime reason being the release of finance, which is the awful thing that finance often holds the whole process up. And there are other mitigating factors to do with the family and to do with who pays for it, whether it's NHS continuing healthcare or whether it's an adult social care provision. So it's a complex procedure that doesn't happen overnight.
Thank you. Councillor Agar.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Chair. May I start with you, Mr. Davey, and come to you afterwards, Mr. Watley. Mr. Davey, we have talked a little bit about ventilation, and you've talked about ventilation, mechanical ventilation in some rooms, such as toilets and so forth. It's clear that you're looking at passive design to provide a regulated temperature for the rest of the rooms. What sort of temperature are you expecting that to be?
The temperature in the rooms when they're occupied, you mean?
Yes, I think so.
Well, that would be to the best practice standard guidelines, which would be around 21 degrees C. Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's reassuring because I know the current building can get very hot. I've been in it when it has been. So thank you. The other thing is we didn't quite manage to find the slide with the skylights on it. I know it's there because it's attached to a floor plan somewhere. But perhaps you can just tell us, do those skylights serve the internal offices that have no other windows?
Do you mean the skylights and not the photovoltaic panels on the roof?
No, there are actually
Yeah,
skylights,
the skylights.
not the,
Yes, yeah,
not
they
the
do.
photovoltaic
Yeah,
panels.
they do serve those rooms. Yes.
Thank you very much. Coming to you, Mr. Watley, I think we talked on, well, briefly, I asked for information about outdoor activities because of the very limited outdoor space you have available on site. So can you just tell us a little bit about what you do to provide outdoor amenity to your clients?
Yes, of course. So what we try to do is utilise what we've got. So our garden is going to be smaller than it currently is, but it's going to be better apportioned and more flexible and better use of our space. So it's going to be a sensory garden. The single story aspect of the new build has bifold doors. It also has the ability to partition it. So we can partition a section of it off, open the bifold doors, and then we have, I think, what we refer to as an inside-outside space that we can use with the sensory garden and the inside space. Other than that, we try to have a fortnightly activity where we take as many clients as we can out for the day. And that's usually an organised activity. It can be to the Sea Life Centre, it can be to one of any activity, any centres that we have across the county or even out of the county. What we do in between times, maybe once or twice a week, certainly in the spring and summer, is we access Gallivelt Park, which is on our doorstep, and which is one of the reasons why we want to remain where we are. And our clients find that a very useful experience. And
Thank you. I think the only other thing I'd like to clarify with you, and I don't want to harp on about parking any more than necessary, I ascertained from you, and if you can confirm this please, that when clients are boarding the minibuses, they are in the street, and that someone, an extra person, is actually ensuring safety by looking out for traffic.
yes, I probably didn't have enough time to answer that when we were on the site visit. But what happens is on every trip there is a driver and there is a client attendant as well, which is almost like a conductor, if you like, on the bus. So there's always two members of staff on the bus. When they're getting on the bus or coming off the bus, then there is always another member of staff who's at the centre who's watching the road. So there'll be 3 people at least in attendance.
Thank you. I think those are all my questions, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Agar. I've just got a few questions, if that's okay. I'd just like to clarify, you talked about the hours of the clients arriving, 9:30 to 3:30, but you have the staff arriving earlier and leaving later, don't you? Is that correct?
Yes, but the bulk of the staff only by minutes. So the care team, which is the bulk of the staff, would arrive 15 minutes at most before and would leave within 5 minutes of the clients going the other end of the day.
But the actual centre itself is open from 8:30 to 4:30?
That would be correct, yeah, and there would be a skeleton staff there outside of those hours of the activities actually going on, of the service being delivered.
Okay. This is a question for Mr. Davey, please. There was brought up an extra image of the cycle parking at the centre. I was quite concerned when I saw this on the plan because I thought it was very mean and probably wasn't meeting the required standards for cycle parking. In that, behind, when you put a cycle in a rack, you're supposed to have space behind it. And I was a bit concerned when I saw a double height cycle shelter. I presume you're not providing a double height cycle shelter.
Yes, I'd just like to clarify that the image that was shown on the screen with the shelter on was indicative to show the kind of stands that would be in place, but the drawing that was on the same slide shows the proposed arrangement. We're not proposing to have a large shelter like the one shown on that photograph. So that won't provide any further constraint. Nevertheless, the setting out of the stands in terms of the space between the end of the stand and the building and the circulation space to the side of the stand to enable the user to maneuver the cycle into the space, that would be in accordance with standard parking guidelines and manufacturers' recommendations for the spacing of those.
How wide is that space, please?
The stands are spaced, I think it was at 800 mil, which is standard for those stands.
No, the space between the building and the wall.
Approximate.
The overall width of that corridor.
It's about 1.2 meters.
Thank you. Do we have any other further questions, please? Oh, yes.
Is that the same area that is going to be the bin storage area along there?
Yes, it's a shared circulation space, yeah.
Councillor Cross?
Thank you, Chair. Sorry, I forgot to ask earlier. Relating to flooding, have you experienced flooding in the existing building whilst you've been at the site?
Not in the 6 years that I've been there, no.
Councillor Round?
Thank you, Chair. Yes, sorry to harp on about the parking, but can I understand the situation that outside the centre at the moment there is quite a bit of disabled bay allocated parking. Am I correct that what happens in the morning, the buses and the parents, they pull up to the disabled bays, the students come out and they're going to the centre, and then on a normal day when there's no trips planned, those minibuses then go off, do they, somewhere? Is that what happens?
No, that's not correct. No, they're not students, they're clients. If our minibuses are not engaged in a specific activity, then they remain parked there for the day in that bay.
So as the disabled bay is not exclusively yours, have you ever had times when other vehicles have been parked there and you've had trouble parking the minibuses?
I've never seen another disabled vehicle parked there in all the time I've been involved.
Any further questions? No? Okay, thank you very much. If you'd like to go back to your seats. Now we've got the ward councillor, Councillor Marjorie Bissett, speaking. Would like to come forward? Sorry, we've just lost signal. We're going to pause. Yep.
I'm having doubts as to whether I silenced my phone, which is in the pocket over there.
Rush and do it. Rush. Karen, can you check that cycle width? He said 1.2 metres. That's not right. But they can't move the building. If there's not enough width between the building and the wall, what are they going to do? They have to revise the plan. Okay, everyone. Okay, we're back. I'd like to apologise to everyone who's watching online and everyone in the room that we've had quite a bit of a technical issue with connectivity, but we are back and hopefully we won't be interrupted again. I've just got a comment from Karen Hanchett, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. So thank you, members. Something's come to light during the questioning session between the applicant and the agent in terms of the provision of cycle parking that I don't feel can be appropriately conditioned or actually resolved today. So I just wanted to make sure that members were aware of that.
Yeah, thank you, Karen. So based on that that information, I would like to propose that the application is deferred to the next available planning committee. It's to allow consideration of the cycle parking because I think it's actually fundamental to the transport debate for this site and cannot be resolved by condition. Can I see a seconder, please? Thank you, Councillor.
Happy to second, Chair, on the grounds that this is an extremely sensitive part of the planning balance.
Thank you, Councillor Agar. On that basis, do we need to vote on that? Yeah, so I need to see a show of hands in support of the deferral, please, based on the work that Highways will do with the applicant. Thank you. Hands in support, please. Thank you. Against? And abstentions? Thank you. That deferral is therefore carried. Thank you.
Chair, just on that point, clearly, given that parking is such a critical aspect of this application, could we ensure, if at all possible, that Ms Hanchett from Highways is present at that meeting when we discuss this? I know she may have other commitments, but I think this is particularly important that she's present if she can be.
Does this mean I don't get to speak now?
Yeah, thank you. You will be excused. Thank you, Councillor Bissett, for coming along. I'm so sorry. Yeah, I do apologise. Thank you. But save it for next time. When is the next committee? Yeah, okay. Thank you. Okay, so we're going to move to the next item, please. And this is item 9. It's presented by Charlotte, and it's for the St Andrew's Gardens. We'll just wait for everyone to leave the room and for the room to be quiet, please, before we start. And I'd just like to remind everyone, please, to speak into your mics as well, so that you can be clearly heard. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Planning permission and listed building consent are sought for landscaping enhancements and pedestrian access improvements at St Andrew's Garden, Deansway. The proposals include the regrading of existing footpaths within the park, the construction of new steps from Copenhagen Street into the gardens, resurfacing of existing paths, the demolition of 2 sections of an existing low boundary wall, along with tree works and planting. The proposals are to be funded by the Government's Towns Fund and developer contributions secured through Section 106 agreements. The City Council is the applicant, and accordingly the applications are presented to this committee for determination. The wider site, outlined in blue on the site location plan, shows its location between the River Severn to the west and Deansway to the east on the outer edge of the city centre. The red line indicates the areas of the site which are subject to the proposed works. The bird's eye view shows the site's location on land that rises from the riverside to Deansway in a context of predominantly educational and commercial land uses. The gardens surrounding the spire and extend from Deansway to Quay Street, which then connects to Severn Way along the eastern side of the river and the public right-of-way. Copenhagen Car Park lies to the southeast of the site. The application site is marked by the Red Cross and includes the Grade 2 star listed church tower. The site and surroundings fall within the historic city conservation area and an archaeologically sensitive area. There are numerous listed buildings nearby of grades 1, 2 star and 2, along with scheduled monuments and the Riverside Conservation Area. There are also a number of locally listed buildings. In considering the proposals, as set out in the report, there are statutory duties and development plan policy requirements to preserve or enhance the character, appearance and setting of these heritage assets. This map includes the designated green space as well as the designated and non-designated heritage assets shown on the previous map. It highlights the link between the green space network on the site to the riverside and its proximity to the area to the north of the college building. SWDP Policy 38 states that development of green space will not be permitted unless specified exceptional circumstances are demonstrated. It is considered that the proposal accords with exception B1, which allows for development that is for community or recreational use and which does not compromise the essential quality and character of the green space. The existing site plan at the top of the slide shows the existing network of footpaths within the gardens and the typical desire line shown by the grey dots and arrows for pedestrians and cyclists travelling between the High Street and Riverside. It notes the area prone to congestion at the upper end of Copenhagen Street, which is a narrow two-way section of carriageway with a footpath on both sides. The photographs at the bottom of the slide highlight the limited and unclear interconnectivity between the footpaths in the gardens and the access to the city centre. These photographs, focused on the entrance to the gardens from Deansway, show the existing poor legibility and permeability for those travelling between the riverside and the city centre. These photographs are looking east up Copenhagen Street towards Deansway and again highlight the limited interconnectivity and poor quality environment for pedestrians travelling between the riverside and car parks to the city centre. These are views from Quay Street and within the site and show both the existing footpath network, some of which are degraded in quality, and also the key heritage assets, the pinnacle of the church spire. The bird's eye view at the top of the slide and the existing site plan at the bottom highlight the quantum of green space within the gardens and the alignment of the footpaths that connect the riverside to Deansway, but with limited connectivity to Copenhagen Street, and in particular for those accessing the city from the car park direction. The proposal includes upgrades to the existing footpaths, both in terms of their surfacing and gradient, and a set of new steps from Copenhagen Street into the gardens. Included in the proposals is a new central roundel space to mark the junction of routes through the historic courtyard, where there will be benches and the relocated spire pinnacle to provide a central marker. A new contemplation garden will also open up views of the Jewish memorial plaque on Copenhagen Street. New tree planting is proposed to mitigate the loss of 6 trees resulting from the alignment of the new path and also to open up views. These images show at larger scale the proposed railings that would demark the realigned entrance to the gardens from Deansway, with a hedgerow behind extending down Copenhagen Street before returning into the site in a northerly direction towards the spire to demark the contemplation garden. Between the entrance and the footway, the surfacing would be sandstone setts and a totem sign is proposed to the right-hand side. When considered together, these proposals are considered to enhance and better reveal the significance of the heritage assets. The alterations and repairs to the historic wall are considered appropriate and necessary as part of the overall scheme to improve access. Material samples are required by the recommended condition to ensure that materials are reused where possible and are appropriate in this heritage-sensitive location. A programme of archaeological works, including a written scheme of investigation, is also recommended to be submitted and approved before any development can take place. The proposal accords with green space policy requirements because it would enhance its quality and character, delivering benefits for its recreational and community use. The proposed development would improve pedestrian permeability and legibility through the site and provides enhanced soft and hard landscaping, which would positively contribute to the visual amenity of the area. A list of ecological enhancements are also included within the scheme to achieve biodiversity net gain in accordance with policy SWDP 22 requirements. A condition is recommended to require these details and ensure that they are provided alongside the development. No objections have been received subject to the imposition of conditions. So to conclude, it is considered that the proposal accords with the development plan taken as a whole and comprises sustainable development. It would deliver social, environmental and economic benefits both on site and in the wider area through the improvements of connectivity between the city centre and the riverside. It's therefore recommended that both planning permission and listed building consent are granted, subject to conditions as set out in the report. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Charlotte. Yeah, so we've got the application and then the listed building consent, so two separate votes. Do I have any questions, please? I've got Councillor Cleary and then Councillor Sarah. Thank you.
Thanks, Chair. I think I'm right in saying it's this spire where the peregrine falcon's nest, isn't it? Is that correct? So my question is, forgive the terminology, but has the appropriate report, whatever it is, speaking to the biodiversity, whatever they're called, has that been done to make sure that whatever work is being done in the park is not going to disturb any nesting season for the peregrine falcons? And if that hasn't been done, can it be done as part of this application? Because that'll make me feel a bit more comfortable.
Through you, Chair, thank you for the question. Just to confirm, the peregrine falcons are at the cathedral rather than at St Andrew's Gardens. Thank you.
Councillor De Zera?
Thank you, Chair. Can I just ask, you showed pictures of the railings that are going to go in. Are they going to go into the existing stonework that supports the current boundary? Are they being retained?
Through you, Chair, thank you. Some of the stonework around the existing entrance is to be removed but reused within the gardens. Where the stonework is retained, then the railings will be placed within those, subject to conditions in terms of the method of construction.
So that's the plan, though. Okay. And could I just ask something about the trees? So 6 trees are going. What's the state? What age are those trees? Are they very mature trees? What sort are they?
Thank you, Chair. I'm not aware of the age of the trees. I can offer the advice to councillors that the landscape officer and the tree officer have both looked at those and have no objections to their removal, subject to replacement planting, which will be 6 trees of appropriate sizes and species, which again is conditioned or recommended as a condition in the recommendation in the report.
Thank you.
I've got Councillor Udall.
Thank you, Chair. I'm very concerned about some of the archaeological aspects of this application. Obviously, it's a very historical part of the city, and we don't really know, and it's been said that we can't find anything significant in the report, but we don't really know what's underneath here. I see what's been suggested under 718, the paragraph about a watching brief, but there are suggestions, rumours, innuendo and urban myths maybe about lots of tunnels in this area leading from the riverbank up to the city centre. Those have never been confirmed or denied. So I do wonder whether watch and brief is adequate and whether we need to actually beef that up a little bit to ensure that there's an archaeologist on site during construction to make sure that a watch and brief isn't just something which allows something to happen which may not otherwise be seen.
Through you, Chair, I would share your concerns if it was anything other than a landscape scheme. The fact that there are no substantial foundations, that in terms of the works that are proposed, we're literally looking at landscape works which are minimal depth. So that's why the watching brief is required. The archaeological advisor again shares your concerns, and I think if it was anything deeper in terms of digging down, though we would certainly beef up those conditions. But given the top and the very minimal nature of which we'll be disturbing the ground, the proposal is, the condition is considered to be appropriate.
Councillor Agar?
Chair, not so much a question, more a comment, if I may. I was particularly impressed by the inclusivity of this scheme. You know, the width of the path will be much better, so it will be much more accessible to people with sight impairment. There is also provision for sensory gardening as well there, which I think will be rather pleasant for all of us, not just those with sight impairment. So I'm very pleased to see it, and textured features on the pathway as well. So that was very pleasing.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Agar. I share your view. One thing that I've noticed, it's surrounded by heritage assets, and actually the heritage in that area is really important. I really like the fact that they've picked up on the glove making industry, but also we've got some benches which are. It says that they're going to be painted black, and I know that these are benches that often in other locations such as Gallivant Park we have lovely individual badges put on each end, and I'm wondering whether that could be conditioned, that we have something, some feature that's on those two, is it two benches, I think? Because we've got them in the Gallivant Park for the regiment, and they just really make it a special place, those kinds of details. I don't know if any members would support that. Yeah?
Absolutely. As the Armed Forces champion, very much so.
Okay, lovely, thank you. Do I have any other comments? Councillor Cross?
Thank you, Chair. Yes, I think this development I welcome. The questions I have really are more just about, within the public reports pack, some of the images are really very fuzzy, and one has to go to the root, to the source documents behind. So it's just a question about, just a note, really, an observation about the issues within our public reports pack. I'd love to understand better, page 43, paragraph 6.7, the benches, the bench ends, the comment from our City Council's Biodiversity Advisor about a more detailed paint scheme for existing bench cast ends than just black, which I've just been trying to find. And
that's what I just talked about, Councillor Cross.
I know that's what you mentioned.
Yeah.
I was just trying to find the details of it within this. So there's mention of it, but I was just failing to see where it was within the documents. Thank you.
Okay.
But I welcome that.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. On this report, we do have some fuzzy images.
I think the best comment I can say is lesson learned.
Thank you. Yeah. Do I have any other comments or questions for the officer, please? No.
We mentioned the badges. Are we conditioning them, or are we how are we adding them in?
Through you, Chair, if members wish them to be conditioned, that would be an additional condition which would require details of the benches to be submitted to and approved in writing to the local planning authority prior to their installation, if members would wish to go for something like that.
Yeah.
Thank you. I would wish to support that if you were proposing
Great.
it.
I think that's really important, because I think the detail on the badges has to be right. It has to, mistakes can be easily made. Okay, we're happy to support that condition. Yeah.
Just to clarify, members, and through you, Chair, that would be a condition 9 for, if that was proposed, for the full. It would not be required on the listed building consent, because it's not a requirement for the listed building consent.
Okay, great. Are we happy to move to a vote on this? Yeah. So do I have a proposer, please? Oh, gosh.
Well, in my case, Chair, it doesn't often happen that I'm proposing something, so take it while it lasts.
That's very true, Councillor Amos. I think we'll one each side. So, Councillor Amos, if you'd like to propose?
I do like to propose.
Thank you very much. And Councillor Agar, you'd like to second?
Happy to.
Thank you. Can we move to a vote then? All votes in favour? Thank you, that's unanimous. Great. And for the listed building consent, I need a proposer and seconder. Should we have some other people? Councillor Cross, would you like to propose?
Be delighted to.
Councillor Cleary? Councillor Alcott? Councillor Cleary, go on. You were first. Okay, thank you. Sorry, Councillor Alcott. I know. Next time. But you've got to be a bit quicker. Can we move to a vote on that as well then, please? So all those in support of the listed building consent. Thank you. That's unanimous. Thank you very much. Thank you, Charlotte. Okay, so now we're going to move to item 10, and I'm just going to leave the room and leave the chairing to Councillor Agar. So we'll just have a bit of a swap round.
Members, the Waterworks Road application, and you'll note that the applicant is a local councillor, and that's why it's before us today. So, on to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. This application relates to a Victorian terrace residential property located on Waterworks Road in Worcester. The site, which runs to the southern boundary of the historic Gellivelt Park, is relatively flat with a small garden area to the rear and on-street parking to the front of the property. The dwelling is owned by a local councillor, which is the reason as to why it's being presented today at the Planning Committee for decision. The application proposals are for extensions to the dwelling in 3 parts: a rear single-storey extension to provide a larger kitchen to the family home, a rear outbuilding to provide a home office to the owners, and a loft conversion with front dormer window. Okay, so the rear single-storey extension. The proposed rear single-storey extension will provide a larger kitchen to the family home. The rear extension is proposed to be approximately 6.8 metres in length, 1.7 metres in width and 3.2 metres in height. It will protrude out at the same length of the original single-storey rear elevation and will be constructed in reclaimed reproduction brickwork to match the existing dwelling. It is considered that the proposed rear extension would not result in a detrimental impact on the amenity of its neighbouring properties and is of good quality design. The scale, height and mass of the development is appropriate to the setting of the site and the surrounding street scene, of which many already benefit from rear additions. The rear outbuilding. The proposed rear outbuilding will provide a home office to the owners. The outbuilding measures approximately, that's the outbuilding, yeah. The outbuilding measures approximately 2.5 metres by 2.5 metres and 2.5 metres in height. The proposed materials are prefabricated timber with chevron-shaped cladding and will be situated on the existing garden level where the site is relatively flat. The applicant has agreed to include a native green living roof to the outbuilding to encourage wildlife to the area. Members are reminded of the applicant's fallback position under permitted development and advise that the outbuilding has been included within the planned application for the sake of clarity. So the loft conversion and front dormer elevation. The proposed dormer to the front of the dwelling measures at approximately 2.4 metres in depth, 2.1 metres in width and 1.5 metres in height. The proposals will allow the applicant to make use of the existing restrictive loft space to create a larger third bedroom. The property currently contains 3 bedrooms, albeit the third very small. This will be converted to a family bathroom, which is currently located on the ground floor. Members are advised, whilst the supplementary design guide states that dormers to the front elevation of properties will be resisted, a number of neighbouring properties on Waterworks Road already benefit from front dormers, and therefore it is considered that the proposal mirrors the established character. This proposal is considered to be modest in size and in quality design. It is considered to be sympathetic to the host and would not result in an alien feature or detract from the existing street scene.
Did you have a question?
More of a concern from my perspective. I've just realised where this is and who this is. Sorry, and I've just realised who this is and where this is, and I know the applicant, and I feel I should recuse myself from.
Declare an interest.
I
Right.
should
Do you
declare a
want to,
non-pecuniary
would you like
interest.
to leave the room then? Is that
I think it
what
would
you're
probably
saying?
be fair. I think it'd be right for me to do so. I'm sorry that this comes at this late stage.
Well, not to worry. We have a legal representative here who can
Okay.
advise you.
Yeah, just purely from a friend perspective.
So I think obviously it's for each councillor to decide for themselves whether they feel that they've got an interest and wouldn't necessarily be coming to the discussion without predetermination. The reason that Karen has stepped out was that she felt she's got a particularly close personal relationship with the applicant. You may not have as fellow councillors, so that would be a decision for you. I don't think it's entirely necessary if your relationship is just as councillors. If you feel that you've got a personal relationship that extends further than that, that would be for you to determine whether you think the relationship is strong enough that it would be an issue. And
we are friends, but I do not feel in any way obligated. So I'm happy to receive advice. You know, there is no pecuniary thing. You know, we don't sort of work together on a board, for example. So, if members feel happy for me to remain, I'm happy to remain.
If you're happy to declare it, but you feel that you're able to participate, that's fine.
Happy to.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
Is there anybody else that feels the same, that wants to declare it now before we proceed? No? Great, thank you.
Right. Okay. That's okay. Okay, as a whole, the proposal are judged to be acceptable in design and amenity terms and would be in accordance with policy SWDP 21. In regard to parking provisions, the dwelling already benefits from 3 bedrooms. The proposals include the conversion of the existing loft to provide a larger 3rd bedroom, and the existing 3rd bedroom will be converted to a family bathroom. Therefore, there is no increase to the number of bedrooms, resulting in no impact on the existing off-street parking requirements. It is therefore considered that the proposals are in accordance with the policy SWDP4 of the Local Development Plan and supporting document Worcestershire Streetscapes Design Guide. In relation to ecology and landscaping, the Council's Landscape Officer has raised no objections to the proposals. A BAT assessment was submitted which concluded that there was no evidence of bats present at the site, therefore no further surveys are required. Conditions are recommended for the siting of a minimum of 2 bat boxes and 2 swift boxes, and a condition for a native green roof on the proposed outbuilding is also recommended to additionally increase the biodiversity to the area. No third-party objections have been received in response to these proposals. Overall, on balance, it's considered that the proposals are of good quality design and appropriate to the character of the area. The application is recommended for approval, subject to the conditions set out within the report.
Thank you, Ms.
Thank you.
I don't know if I'm pronouncing your name correctly. Ms. Vo Harvey? Yeah. Thank you. Okay. Okay, I think what we'll do is take questions first and then move to the debate, if that's okay. Any questions? Yes, Councillor Amos.
Thank you, Chair. I really think a house like this, it is actually a real shame to see it so knocked about that it's going to end up unrecognisable. It is a real shame. But can the officers tell me, in relation to the current footage, how bigger will it be as a percentage with all these additions and amendments compared to what it is now?
Through you, Chair, we haven't got those figures to hand. We consider, looking at the extensions that are proposed, we consider that they are appropriate to it, but we haven't got the exact percentage figures to hand to be able to provide those for members.
I think, Chair, we've had this issue before, and I think it, frankly, is essential that we have these figures, because if we're to judge whether it's appropriate development or not, or overdevelopment, we need to know by how much it has grown or is intended to expand. So it's difficult for me to judge this, because it looks from the picture, certainly on page 57, and what we're seeing on the screen, that it is a property that's changed out of recognition. Buildings up, down, side and back. They're all different. And surely the size of what they want to build is significant in relation to what it is now. Or is that not a material planning consideration?
Thank you. I mean, part of the answer is that the outbuilding is permitted development in any case. So that really only leaves us with the other part of the extension.
Through you, Chair, if I can direct members in the reports to paragraph 7.5. What that does helpfully show is that as part of a number of these properties, and members will see these around the city, that these historic buildings have what is currently called outriggers. So they have a single-storey extension that extends out, normally with a mono-pitched roof that joins onto the neighbouring property. And you'll see that highlighted and circled in red. What the proposed extension does is demolish that and extends to the side. So in terms of the amount of extensions, what we are looking at is infilling the void that exists between the rear of the property and that outrigger to the point of where it comes to at the moment. So in terms of the percentage increase, I would have thought that it's going to be fairly low based on the fact that it's a single-storey element.
Is that it? Yeah, thank you very much. Councillor Cleary.
Thanks, Chair. Am I right in thinking that the only reason this is before us is because it's a sitting councillor, and were it not a sitting councillor, we wouldn't get to talk about this? Is that correct?
Through you, Chair. Absolutely correct. There have been no objections from residents and there's no objections from consultees. It hasn't been called in. It's purely because of the councillor application.
Any further? Yes, a question.
I'd like to know where the bike rack is. I'm only joking.
I've got no comments on that.
Thank you. Any further comments now? Moving to the debate. No? Are you happy to move and vote on it at this point? Thank you. So I'm looking for a proposer. Thank you. And a seconder? Sorry. Thank you, Councillor Smith. So Councillor Desiree proposing, Councillor Smith seconding. Thank you. All in favour? Any abstentions? Thank you. Is that okay? We've got all that? Thank you very much. That concludes that item.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Agar, for chairing that item. We're proceeding now with item 11, which is Mayfield Road.
Thank you, Chair. We'll just kickstart the PowerPoint for the final time today. So, members, I will keep this as brief as it needs to be. This application is not actually an application. It's a deed of variation. So it's a request made in terms of varying an existing 106 that relates to the site. So the application relates to the former Servicemen's Working Men's Club on Mayfield Road, which is off the Astwood Road. The aerial photo there shows construction that is underway, and if you go there today, the construction is far greater progressed. The application, or the request, has been put in by Citizen Housing. It's a lot smaller than I thought it was going to be on the screen. Sorry, platform. Don't know where Citizen came from, but anyway, platform. So this on the screen is the original section 106, which, when this committee considered it, considered that a contribution should be required, to support the 22 residential units. At the time, vacant building credit was considered to bite, and there was looking at a provision of 1.7 units, and it was considered at the time that an off-site contribution was better than trying to find a housing provider to provide 1.7 or 2 units. Since then, Platform have been interested and have a secured interest on the site, and they are now looking at providing 100% affordable housing on the site. And so the request has come to remove the affordable housing limit of £21,754.90 and provide a full 30% as a minimum requirement, but actually it will be 100% of the 22 units will be for affordable housing of social rent tenure. So having considered the proposal alongside our housing colleagues who are fully in support of this as it meets the demand within the area, the recommendation is that delegated authority be given to the Director of Planning and Governance to sign a deed of variation to allow for the heads of terms as set out within the Appendix 1 and to remove the affordable housing contribution. Thank you, Chair.
Yeah, thank you, Paul. The other thing in the report, it does say that we have received the public open space contribution in January 2022, so that's been unaffected. So any comments at all? No? Councillor Cross?
Just one question. If things were to change, then and it not to become 100% affordable housing, then presumably Section 106 would then become required. Is that right?
Through you, Chair, it's a good question. The way that the deed of variation will be written is that a minimum of 30% affordable housing will be provided on the site. The fact that they have over-provided is a matter for them. What we can do from a planning point of view is provide a policy-compliant position, which is a minimum of 30%. So a minimum of 30% will be provided, whether it's 100% or not.
Thank you. Sorry to come back. And that then, that deed of variation applies to the developer or to Platform Housing, not to the site. So it applies to the organisation, not the site. Is that right?
Through you, Chair, it applies to the land. So whether it's Platform Housing, whether it's other developer, or whether it's another registered provider, that deed of variation will be a land charge on the land.
Councillor Cleary?
Thanks, Chair. Just to clarify then, so this is being changed to 100% affordable housing, but it's going to be written into the contract that they can do 30% if they want. So if in 6 months' time they change their mind to 30%, that's within this deed of variation. Is that allowed?
Just to clarify, and I appreciate that it might be difficult, they are proposing 100%, but what we can do from a planning perspective is set what the policy compliant position is. We can't go over that because it would be unreasonable for us to do so. So we set a bar of 30%. They can overdo that. And Platform are absolutely dedicated to this site and they are committed to it, and they have given assurance to the housing team that it will be 100%.
I get that, but talk is cheap. And if they decide that they want to do it at 30%, then it's happening at 30%, isn't it? Yeah.
That is correct, which is a policy compliant position.
But they are a social housing provider. Yeah.
I just wanted to say, Chair, that I'm ecstatic to see some social housing being provided. So often we have to use our 106 contributions and we can't, we don't get enough infrastructure money for other things. This is just delightful. Thank you.
Councillor Tessera?
Could I just ask, how many bedroom homes are going to be provided in this? Do we know what the plan is? I'm interested.
In terms of the mix, I can't tell you off the top of it. I'll tell you after, once I've found it.
Okay, thank you. I'll be happy to move to a vote. Okay, so can I have a proposer, please? Councillor Alcott, would you like to propose? And yeah, and someone who hasn't had a. Anyone else wants to be a seconder? Go on, Councillor Round, go on. Lovely. Okay, fantastic. Can I see votes in favour then, please? That's unanimous. Thank you very much. Okay, do we have any other business?
Just a reminder of the site visit, wasn't it?
Oh, yes.
Two things. Do you want me to do?
Yeah, should we do it now? Yeah, okay.
Two matters of any other business for members. Firstly, a reminder for those who haven't notified that they are coming to the committee tour next week, which is next Thursday, where we're going to look at sites. We've got sites to go to Mount Batten Hall. We're going to look at the housing development at Batten Hall and also the vinegar works. So we're able to get into the first and the second ones of those. So if you want to have a look round them, the coach will be departing from Copenhagen Street. So it has been reminded in the weekly items, so please keep an eye out for that. If you haven't responded to Margaret that you're coming, please can you do so, just so that we've got an idea of numbers. So that was the first matter. The second matter, and it's quite unusual, is that we are looking forward to next planning committee, and the likelihood, and it's quite highly likely, is that the Scala Theatre will be at the next planning committee. And the reason for highlighting that is that in consultation at Chair's briefing earlier this week, Chair and Vice Chair have agreed that it would be very useful to look at the site and to go round the buildings of the site. So that is going to be arranged, and it's just to put members on notice that that will be arranged and details will be provided in advance so that members can make themselves available, because both officers and Chair and Vice Chair feel that it's quite essential for members to be able to understand the project fully, to be able to get access to the buildings and to be able to see them. So further details of that will be coming out, and it's providing advance notice of that.
Councillor Cross?
Thank you, Chair. Quick question. You said the tour coming up on Thursday was a committee tour. I believe it's a tour that's available to all members of the council. Is that right?
You are correct, and you picked me up on my slip.
Thank you, Councillor Cross. I'll bring the meeting to a close then. Thank you.